Okay, so here we are. I'm Mr. Pine, and this is your screencast today for yearbook. Health. So today we're going to go over the what we're supposed to do today. If you want to get on the Zoom, you can. I probably won't do a Zoom for the afternoon because this is why I'm recording this right now today. But today we got depression and suicide notes. So if you want to pull up your notes, and you can record these as I go through the presentation. Right? So the presentation is here, and you guys can look at the presentation and fill out the notes as you go or on your own. Right? So here's the presentation on depression and suicide. Usually we take a little bit more time on this. Sometimes the counselors will come through and they'll do a presentation for us, but I am just going to present to you today on the depression and suicide notes. Okay? So depression and suicide, this is probably one of the biggest mental illnesses that we have is depression, or the most prevalent, the one that most of the population has. We are all depressed, and at times we have our normal levels of depression, right? So you might actually, be, here we go. We have happy, and we have depression, right? And this is usually the normal in between, right? We're usually right here in between the happy and the normal. But sometimes what happens, we go clear up here maybe on prom or, a huge happy time, or we go down here in depression. So what happens on clinical depression? Something makes us stay down here in the dumps for more than 2 weeks. And then that is when we have clinical depression, right? And so clinical depression is when we drop down below this level, the normal level, more than 2 weeks, and then that's clinical depression, right? So here we go. So clinical depression, major depression disorders, 2 weeks, that's a key thing right there. You know that for the quiz and test. Some of the symptoms, and just because you have one or two of these doesn't mean that you have clinical depression, but if you have all of them, or a friend has all of them, then maybe we might want to start looking at getting help. But persistently sad, difficulty thinking just because you can't think doesn't mean that you have depression. Lack of interest or pleasure from activities because you might have a chemical imbalance in the brain. And then those feelings. Poor performance in school just because you have Fs doesn't mean you automatically have clinical depression. This is probably one of the bigger symptoms, recurrent thoughts of death or suicide. Pronounced changes in sleep, that could be that you're just getting a new job and impaired immune system. How is depression treated? Just like all mental illnesses, we got antidepressant medication. So medication and therapy are the two ways that depression is treated. You can go to a psychologist, that's 8 years of schooling, or you can go to a psychiatrist, which is like 10, 12 years of schooling. Psychiatrists can prescribe you medication, but most any family physician, family doctor, or physician's assistant can prescribe you medication for mental illnesses, right? Here at the school, I don't think any of our counselors can prescribe you medication. If you went to a therapist, they can prescribe you medication, or they can send you to your normal doctor. Any normal doctor can prescribe medication for mental illnesses. What does the medication do? It can act in two ways. Basically, you have serotonin, right? And I talked about this, how you have a connection between the input into your brain and the output of your brain. That connection is severed or cut because, one, you don't have enough serotonin to carry that message along. So you see a puppy and the message is feel happy. If that message cannot jump this gap, which is a synapse, then you'll never get that message and you'll never produce the hormones, dopamine, to make you feel good. Serotonin is depleted, or it's taken away when you have traumatic events or a lot of stress. Or University of Utah did a study and found that higher altitudes, people tend to have less serotonin. So you can get on an antidepressant medication. Prozac actually helps the serotonin stay there. So even though you have a traumatic experience, or maybe someone makes you upset, you're more likely or able to not blow up because the serotonin is staying there. And that's called the SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. That just makes me sound smart. Women are more likely than men to have an episode of depression. Mainly, I guess this is my theory, but mainly because women have a cycles of hormones, whereas men don't have a constant, steady stream of hormones. So women's hormones go up and down with their period, to tell their body to cycle through. And then the teen population, suffers from depression. 89% of depression is treatable. How to deal with depression with teenagers with our pressures. Talking to someone, and that's the biggest thing I want you to know, is talking to someone really, really does help. Getting out and exercising, which is hard to do, but it's something that helps, right? Making that decision. Here's some facts from fictions. It's normal for teenagers to be moody. Teens can suffer real depression. It doesn't matter the race, the ethnicity, the age, or if you're rich or poor, you can suffer from depression. You can also, there's nothing you can do about it. Yes, there are things you can do about it. Professional treatment is important. So teenagers, we can't look at people and say, hey, you just need to pull yourself together. That's like looking at someone that has cancer and say don't have cancer. Another myth is talking about it makes it worse. Actually, talking about it makes it better. Some people used to think that about suicide and depression, like, shh, don't talk about it, because we don't want to put those thoughts in their heads. The thoughts are already there. So talking about it actually gets those thoughts out, and processing that is what therapists do, right? Other things. Telling an adult might betray trust. You might betray trust, but getting them help is more important. A lot of the people that have depression, their brain doesn't work the right way, and so they may think that that's betraying trust, but actually it's helping them out. Suicide can be caused by depression. Danger of depression can lead to suicide. Each year, 5,000 people die by suicide. It is the third leading cause of death, and in teenagers here in Utah, it's the second leading cause of death for teenagers. In part, maybe because there's a lot of different theories onto that. Maybe it's our altitude and we have lower serotonin levels. Maybe it's high expectations. One big thing, though, is that the second leading cause of death in America for teenagers is violence, like assault, so gang violence. So like Chicago and Seattle, Oakland, LA, those places, a lot of teens die because they kill each other. However, here in Utah, we don't have as much of that. And so our number 2 is suicide, since our number 2 doesn't really work with the number 2 with the rest of the country, if that makes sense. College-age students, it's more of a problem because they don't have the support of parents or family if they go off to college, right? Cognitive explanations, like different things that could happen or cause depression, poor problem solving. Cognitive just means your ability, like a skill, like maybe people have a skill that is not there. Physiological is a physical, so people that have chronic pain, they're always in pain, may cause depression. And then if you have serotonin levels that are down. Gender and suicide. Women are 3 times more likely to attempt suicide, and men are 3 times more likely to complete, because women are more likely to choose a less lethal means, whereas men are more likely to choose something more lethal. Warning signs, if someone talks about it a lot. Drastic changes in behavior, like it's outside again of their normal, right? It's down here or up here. Withdrawal from friends or social activities, and those things, making out a will. So just because someone might, have trouble eating or sleeping doesn't automatically mean that they're going to, commit suicide, or not commit suicide, die or try suicide or die by suicide. Changing the wording on that, and that's why I changed that or said that, is suicide isn't a crime. It's not something that someone is convicted of or commits, right? It is a disorder. It's like a disease almost, We don't say someone committed cancer. We say someone died of cancer. They had cancer, right? Someone had depression. They died by suicide. That's a way to stop the stigma. If people have attempted it before, and some people just do stupid stuff, not really caring, and those things happen. So what should we do as friends? We should get involved, be available, show support. ask them straight up. I always take it seriously and ask them directly. You're not going to put the thought in their head. It's already been there. Be direct. And I think this is the biggest one. Listen, listen, listen. It's not about you. It's about them. Okay? These other things, don't freak out on them. Don't be sworn to secrecy. And even if you do, I think that you personally can break that secrecy if it's going to save someone's life. Offer hope. If you need to, take action. If that's scary, that can be scary. I've had to do that with my brother before. Take all the knives and hide them, or the guns. And he asked, where are the knives? And it opened up a conversation that I had. I'm like, well, I'm worried about you. And he was able to reassure me, and we're able to talk about it. Do's and don'ts. Don't dare them. Don't judge them. Don't analyze their motives. Don't argue or convince them. Stay here. Don't leave them alone is a big one. And a lot of the times this will happen late at night when your friends talk to you about it. So it's hard not to leave them alone because maybe you have curfew or whatever, but maybe, ask for them to come home with you. Maybe text your parents or whatnot, right? QPR is a good acronym, and this will be on the quiz. Question, persuade, and refer. Question them if they're actually thinking about it. Persuade them to get help, and if not, then you take action, right? You talk to someone or tell parents. Where can you get help? Any health agencies. We have Safe Utah app. We have National Alliance of Mental Illness. We have private therapists. We have therapists here at the school. We have psychologists. We have family physicians. We have this crisis. If we actually were at school, I'd make you put this number in your phone. And that's important to do, or even download this app. The app is good because you can chat with someone, or you can call them, or you can submit a tip. So you can question, persuade, refer right there. Referrals are good. All these referrals are always followed up with. They don't ignore any of the referrals. So understanding that, right? I know I went over this quickly, but I think the biggest thing is to talk about it. Really listening is important, right? If you have questions or concerns, please, please, please let me know on this.